All right. Well, I get to keep you guys awake in the early afternoon, and so it's my pleasure to get to visit with you. I know normally my job in this type of audience is to scare the bejesus out of you about African swine fever virus, and I get to speak about a much more optimistic thing today, which is the future of our swine industry and the types of students that we get to work with each and every day. So we know that based on already the speakers this morning, as well as what we're hearing from our producers here in the state, as well as from our own KDA, that one of the biggest opportunities that we have here in the state of Kansas in our pork sector is human capital. It's one of our biggest challenges, it's one of our biggest opportunities, and it is certainly something that we in the Department of Animal Science at K-State take pretty seriously. We know that this is a growing area, you need talent, and I say we always have two main products that we can make. We can't make widgets, we can't make gadgets, we can make talent, and we can help make knowledge. And so that's what we can share with you. We can help form those formative years of those students. And so our numbers over the years have been relatively stable. So this is our demographic numbers or our census numbers for this fall. So we have about 1,000 students from undergraduate through graduate programs in the department. Certainly stable, relatively stable over the past 10 years. As we look to pre-admit numbers for next fall, man, things are pretty optimistic. And so we're looking forward to continuing to grow the number of students in the program. One area that we have seen growth and we project to continue to have more growth is in that growing area of online education. And so making sure that we have availability to meet people where they're at and where they're trying to gain that education, and so that's something we take seriously. One thing that's very unique to K-State in our animal science department is that we are the largest major on campus, and by quite a few hundred students. That's something that as I share our message with prospective students from across the country when they end up in my office and I'm trying to recruit them to come to K-State over other institutions, this is something that's pretty special. It's very unique to have an animal science department be the largest academic major on campus. This helps us mean that across campus our students are looked to as leaders. They're really looked to as this is a rigorous degree. This is not aw shucks farming. Our students are really the leaders within the university. Currently, our student body president is an animal science major. And when you look at our in-state, out-of-state match, lots of students were like me. Out-of-state students looking for a place where they can study pigs. And so we're fortunate that we have the ability to draw some of those students here to K-State. What is interesting about our students? Increasingly female. And so one thing that you should take away from this slide, our student numbers as of this fall, 83% female in the Department of Animal Science, our undergrads at Kansas State University. I'll tell you the number one question I get from employers: why are all of them female? Why are all of my candidates, why are all of my applicants female? Because we are 83% female. That's our student demographic right now. And so there's a lot of questions in higher education. Where are all of the college-age men, right? And this is actually a trend as we look at demographics over Kansas, college-going males, fewer college-going males going to four-year institutions, but it is real, folks. And so if you're starting to see that at the entry of your pipeline, I want you to get comfortable with that. No longer are we in the days where we're showering in to pig farms and trying to find female undergarments. Those were the days when Lisa and I were some of the first females into some of those farms and trying to find some of those exciting things of being the first females in those barns. We now actually, Dr. Goodband, our farm, we have just our undergrad research class, our swine science class, easily 2 times as many women showering through as we do men. And so something that as you're building new facilities, keep that in mind. Something that our demographics continue to change. And like you heard from Dr. Lerner this morning, increasingly urban. So Dr. Lerner's a great example, Macy Reeves another great example, a couple students that we turn into pig people. And so as we continue to try to foster those current students that come to us, our bread and butter students from the swine industry, we need to find and grow and foster those students. We also need to find more. And so that's one of our challenges moving forward. I think we do a pretty good job with our students. If you look at our placement rates way up here, we have a 95% placement rate. It's really, really strong for a placement rate, about $40,000 starting salary. When you look at where those students are going, about 2/3 of them go into employment right after their degree program. So 2/3 of them are going straight into a career. About 30%, though, are going to further their education. That is, to give you some context, at least 10% higher than most of our peer or sister institutions. The national average of animal science programs and graduates from animal science programs going on to graduate or professional school is about 15%. We're double that here at K-State. I think that speaks highly of the rigor of our program. It also is a great example of kind of our undergrad research program and students that are being fostered and told about the opportunities to go to graduate and professional school. But I also want to assure you we continue to turn out some dynamic students that are employed straight out of the gate with their 4-year degree, with their bachelor's degree from K-State. Now I point to that 95% placement rate. I do want to put a caveat in there a little bit because these numbers are always interesting. Man, who can't find a job in this economic climate? Right? These are students who have very, very narrow specific concerns or asks. And so as we look, 2% of them are not even seeking employment for various reasons, military status, family status, a different set of reasons. 3% typically are trying to return to a very narrow geographic location or a very narrow sector. So if a student wants a job, they can find a job. Our goal is to help them find the right job in the right type of industry and make sure that they've been exposed to all of those opportunities coming forward. When we look at swine, that's really one of the areas that Dr. G and I and a lot of our colleagues try aggressively to filter more students into these programs. To give you an idea, about 2% of our students coming in are interested in ever working in the swine industry. That's all. So if you look at students coming in, and I took actually this year's graduating class, 2020 to 2021, their senior exit interviews and plowed through the data, and then I took their data from when they entered as freshmen. So 4 years prior, the fall of 2017, I actually surveyed those students and said, hey, if you could have a career in these different industries, which ones are you interested in? You can imagine lots of them are interested in being dog and cat veterinarians in urban areas. Lots of them are interested in going to run cow-calf operations. 2% were even open to careers in the swine industry. Turn that around, 4 years later, we have about 15% of them that are accepting employment within that industry. And so that's one of our goals, is to help through that pipeline of different activities we have at K-State, expose those students that maybe weren't swine interested to start, to help them see and understand the opportunities within the industry here. This is some of what the things are that we can do. I always tell our farm staff, man, they're our bread and butter. Our farm staff, Mark and Frank and the folks out there, they put up with a lot of headaches that most other farm staffs would not have to put up with. We have more than 100 unique students throughout the year that come through and have unique experiences at our swine teaching and research farm. That's not just 100 entries. That's like 100 students who are entering every week over a 15-week semester. That's a lot of laundry. That's a lot of logistical challenges of having 83% females coming in and out of the facility on a regular basis, and double the number of towels, and all sorts of challenges with biosecurity that we give our farm staff a big headache. But it's one of the secrets to success here at K-State. I really, really genuinely believe that. When I recruit students, I always tell them there's 2 reasons to come here: facilities and faculty. Our facilities, when you look at our classroom spaces, maybe aren't the schnazziest around. If you've ever sat in Weber 123, you know what I mean. All right? But when it comes to real practical facilities where our students can learn, can gain a hands-on education, our facilities are second to none. When you look at our sister institutions and look at their swine facilities, for example, the fact that we have 100 students that shower in and out of our facility and learn the importance of biosecurity in a real working swine farm, that's something special. And it's a pain in the butt for our farm staff folks, but we really appreciate you in the industry who have helped us continue to keep those facilities here and physically close to campus and viable and important both for research, but also for teaching purposes. As we move forward, we have a couple classes that we really base out of the swine farm. One is swine science, that's what Dr. G has. Swine science has students every fall and every spring that get the opportunity to witness semen collection from a boar. They get to breed a sow. I'm sure that their conception rates aren't great. They get to help process baby pigs, all sorts of the fun stuff that you should get to find out when you're part of the swine industry. Then we have 20 students that are part of our spring research class. Dr. Annie Lerner was around with our first round of that. I give a lot of credit to Peyton Dahmer and Olivia Harrison, two of my graduate students that help lead that aspect of things, where we have students exposed to undergraduate research. The undergrads are responsible for the chores and the animal care and all of the process that is managing those pigs for that period of time. We do have a swine club. Many of our clubs were kind of decimated because of COVID and some restrictions to limit in-person meetings. Colby Nichols, I know, is here today. Colby, you want to raise your hand? Colby's here. Colby had an internship at PIC. He's going to Schwartz Farms this summer. He's the president of that club. And then I just have to brag a little bit on our undergrad research program. We have about 43% of our graduates that leave having done an experience in undergrad research. We really think that one of the main ways we can help students better understand the future of the industry is to expose them to undergrad research. And again, many of these students will go on, and I've got the data here, they'll go on, many of them go on to master's or PhD or DVM programs, and I think that helps boost it. But also, this is really important for those students who are going back home, or going out to be sow farm managers, or going out to manage logistics in a flow. Some of those roles have such a critically important aspect of being able to analyze data, critically evaluate data, and use science to make decisions. We look to really that undergrad research program, understanding statistics, the basics of a p-value, to help this set of students really make science-based decisions as we continue forward in animal agriculture. It's interesting when you see those numbers to then come back to these ones. This is what we start with. Remember, about 2% of our students are interested in swine, in a career at all. When we have students coming in just to the undergrad research class, okay, these are students who have chosen to enroll in an elective class where they're showering in and out of a pig farm 15 times during a semester. They do this on purpose, right? Of those students, 4% had ever seen commercial pig production. 4%. Only about 30% had touched a pig ever before being part of this program. And so many had, you know, some tell me, some see that 30% number and say, oh, that's a lot. Some see that 30% number and say, oh, that's not very many at all. Most of those experiences were in the youth livestock world. I know my kids are the same way, right? And so we really encourage students, which that's a biosecurity fun excitement thing on its own, but we encourage those students who maybe got a start in that youth livestock arena and got exposed to the swine world as part of that, but they have to see our facility, our farm, to really start to understand what it means to be in a commercial swine production. And I know we're a long ways from what your facilities all are, but it's an important first step as we talk about that pipeline of exposing students from being interested in a swine career to actually taking one at the end of the day. So back to Joel's question at the beginning of the day, or his charge at the beginning of the day, I wanted to share some things with you with kind of the producers and the message that I know you guys want, which is the question I get every time I see you: how do we hire the good people, right? How do I hire the best one? How do I find the best one? First and foremost, internships, 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 right? We are now working with a group of students who have barely any commercial experience, if any at all. They've never been exposed to the swine industry. And so don't be afraid to take a chance on a kid from, I'll throw Annie under the bus, right? On a kid from Overland Park, Kansas, who has no pig experience other than the fact maybe they enrolled in an undergrad research class once upon a time. Right? That's what we're going to have to do to be able to find the next talent in the industry. As you're looking at how to land those interns, I can't tell you how important housing is to that equation. It seems very short-sighted, but that's what college students are. Overwhelmingly, college students will take internships if housing is provided. Because put yourself back in that mind of like a 19, 20-year-old, right? Especially if you're one of the 83% female, 19 to 20-year-olds. You're thinking about, I already pay rent in Manhattan, Kansas, and I either have a dorm or I have a bed there, and I have a couch there, and I have a TV there, and I have a little car, and I have no idea how I could find, rent, or move any of my stuff into rural Kansas. Right? This is one of the biggest challenges that our undergrads have when trying to find internships. Over and over again, I see students turning down wonderful opportunities because housing isn't provided. That is by far the key to getting great interns. Once that's done, you actually, don't tell my students that I said this, you don't have to pay them that much. They don't care that much about being paid, right? You have to pay them like minimum wage because otherwise it's not legal. But housing is going to attract those students way more than having a competitive summer salary, for example. And so that's really your secret. And then once you're there, once you have those students, give them a wide range of experiences, all right? Do not look to these students as cheap labor because you won't be satisfied and neither will they. Right? This is not cheap labor. This is probably better looked at as an investment. Maybe your marketing team's budget should go into this. I don't know, but from the labor perspective, the best internships, the ones that are most successful at actually landing students, are those where the student spends maybe 2 weeks with a veterinarian, 2 weeks in the sow farm, 2 weeks in a finishing research facility, 2 weeks up in management or with the accounting staff, 2 weeks in logistics, just a little bit where they're learning a little bit about everything. I know from your end, you're like, yeah, you can't get any work out of them in 2 weeks. Not the point of an intern. All right, so unfortunately, this is very heavy lifting from the employer side in order to do internships right. But then those students come back and they talk, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk. And we know in a hurry who's had a great experience and who hasn't, and that word spreads like wildfire. If you're in this situation and you're looking for either interns or full-time employees, please use us as resources. So I have my email address up here. I also have that of Dr. Carol Fike. Dr. Fike is our internship coordinator. Her email address is carol with a K at ksu.edu. Mine is jonesc@ksu.edu. Collectively, between the two of us, we interact with most of our 1,000 students on a daily or at least weekly basis, probably. So make sure that you reach out to us, but also if you interact with one member of the swine nutrition team or swine production team more than another, reach out to them, because many times it's just like anything else. It's a game of knowing the people and knowing what this person's looking for, what type of opportunity this is, what type of company that is. We can help you find the best student and find a good fit for everybody involved. We do have a career center, the K-State Career Center, and a program called Handshake that if you're looking for students, if you're looking for future employees, I encourage you to check those out. That's where our students are looking for information and employers. Another piece of advice is to hire when students are looking. And this is something that takes quite a bit of forethought, because I know usually we're in the world of I need an employee tomorrow, and so I'm going to hire the best one I can find by 6 p.m. tonight. Right? And so this is a game where we're really looking at the investment aspect of it. The process begins way back in September with our career fair. Many of our top students have job offers secured by the end of September for the following May. All right, there is another burst of students who have, I call it the January freakout. They come back from winter break and they go, oh my God, I'm going to graduate. I should find a job, right? And so there's always a group of students around that time who are looking for careers as well. And then there's those students in kind of that March and April time frame, which is more realistic for maybe a May round of hiring that you're typically looking for. But usually what I find is many of the jobs come out around that March or April time period. And you might be frustrated because a number of our students took those careers or took those jobs earlier on in that cycle or in that process. Once you land those students, the best way to continue to have access to continued students in the future offer a competitive wage, but again, remember, this is not a demographic of students who's necessarily driven by their pocketbook, right? They're much more interested in if they had an acclamation and a positive acclamation and an opportunity to advance. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. Sometimes I know that that comes off that students aren't looking to kind of do the ground floor work that's necessary. That's not true. These are some of the hardest working, most blue collar students that we have. But again, many of them haven't ever been exposed to the swine industry before. And so they're not afraid to work, but many times they just don't have the concept of what can they do and what does a path of progression look like in a company and what could it look like to move forward. So really helping those new hires get acclimated into a situation, find strong mentors that they can look to as they continue to grow. Again, that word gets back. And so you're going to continue to have access to some of the top students if you treat the students that you hire quite well. Last slide that I have for you before I turn over to Jason is I frequently get asked, Cassie, how much should we pay people? What's a competitive wage? And so I showed you before all of our animal science students, and these are just those that responded to the survey. So these are our 2020 to 2021 grads, last year's graduating class. Those that responded to the survey, an N of 164, right around that $40,000, $41,000 starting salary range. We sent 7 out into production, 4 into regulatory, Department of Defense, NBAF, KDA, feed and nutrition, health, and so those are all students that came back as part of their exit surveys indicated that they were doing something associated with the swine industry. And so that's where our pipeline goes, and then you can see the average starting salaries associated with it. All right, so if you ever have hiring needs, let us know. If you ever have great students that need to come to K-State, let us know that too, and we'll come find them. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Woodworth, and he'll talk about the graduate student aspects.
Yeah, I appreciate the message that Cassie provided there, and I think you got every right to brag about the undergrad research program that you've developed right here, okay? So I mean, the number of students that we have come through that system that have their first exposure to pigs is tremendous. You know, the thing you didn't mention, though, is that you were also a part or a product of undergrad research. Amy Lerner, another product of undergrad research. I remember when Bob came and talked to me and said, hey, you want to do this trial? I don't know if you knew what you were getting into at that point, Bob, but I mean, it got me exposed and involved as well, too. And so, I mean, the ability to get students with pig contact to build that passion for the swine industry is something we all need to be looking forward to. And we've heard the message about the labor. We're going to continue to hear the message about the labor. I think crisis was the word that we heard this morning. And so we really need to take it seriously. And so I get the opportunity to talk a little bit about our grad student program right here. And you know, if you know us, you know we approach our job as a business. And so all businesses have a nice mission statement that you can read right there. But you know, the top objective for us to accomplish our mission is here at the bottom, is to provide an education and opportunities for young professionals to develop their careers in the swine industry. And there's a lot of things that get us faculty up in the morning to be able to come into work each day. But this is the main reason that we're there. So seeing the passion that the students be able to develop from the research they do, seeing them come in and get excited about the things we forgot about 20 years ago is tremendous. And so, you know, it's really it's an important key for what we do as university faculty. But it's interesting when you look at the last 60 graduate students within our swine nutrition program right here. You know, if we look at you know, what got them interested in swine or where their background came from, 47% of them were involved in the junior swine programs, 4-H, FFA, and National Junior Swine, you know, Associations, those types of things. Almost half of them, that's where their exposure was. You also some slides at the end with where our current graduate students are, and you know, a lot of them are in the production and commercial farm backgrounds right there. You know, only 17% of them come in with that particular type of a background. So, you know, this is one charge that I would really throw out to everybody in the audience. We can't forget the youth swine-related activities as ways to be able to get students ingrained and in touch with pigs. You know, some of that, you know, we can oftentimes use biosecurity as the reason we don't go to the fairs. But you know, there's a premium auction at the end of each of those fairs. And that $100 in our pocket, you know, may not mean a whole lot, but it means a heck of a lot to some kid that just went through and showed their pig through their county fair. So there's lots of ways that we can really go and experience and be able to promote our industry if we work in some of these areas. You know, it surprised me as we put this together, only 13% of us were pre-vet option. I say us, Annie and I were both in that option there as well too, as came in. I came in with 0 pig experience. And lucky for me, the swine unit needed someone to clean sheds and power wash pens, and that's how I got my first. I say lucky, maybe I wasn't lucky, but that's the opportunities there are what we're really going to be creating. When you think about where our students come from, I believe the previous slide said about 17% of them internationally. We have a lot of students coming from across the United States, and I should have done my math to figure out how many of us were from Kansas, but it's a small handful. And so the traditions of the program, the traditions of Kansas State University have allowed us to be able to attract students from all across the United States right here. It's really fortunate to be able to bring these students in and be able to have the track record that we have within our system right here and be able to attract and continue to attract the students that we have. One of the things that's a real strength that you'll hear from me today is that we continue to grow our program. We have the support. We heard Dr. Day this morning. We have the support from KPA. We have the support of our extended family here in the room right here. There's a lot of other university programs out there that are folding up. They're losing the interest. They're losing the support from within their organizations. And so we're fortunate to be on the other side of that coin. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the success and how we develop some of the success for our students. And really, I think there's 5 key principles that really help generate the success for the students that we turn out. The number one, the first one that I'll show right here is the multidiscipline approach to our training. And so we have a lot of students that they leave here as swine nutritionists, but they spend a lot of time over in our ag econ department. There's a lot of modeling, there's a lot of economics that go on with the studies that we conduct. The grain science program, Dr. Stark and Polk couldn't make it today. They're actually teaching class, but when you came in or when you leave, right across the road when you leave out of here is the new feed mill. It's a tremendous opportunity to be able to have students, especially swine nutrition students, get in and get the feed mill experience that we need. And so, we couldn't have done it without those guys. We have a really young and growing meat and food science program. Drs. O'Quinn, Chow, Zumba, Trinetta, tremendous set of individuals that allow us to be able to parlay what they do in with our graduate student group. The K-State Vet Med group, also, just a short 2 or 3 blocks. We're on the other side of NBAF. There's our vet school right there, and so a lot of resources for us. We talked already, had a couple different people talking about the feed safety team right here, and this is something that I think this would have been probably the very first feed safety team that was ever developed, probably across the world from that perspective. We start thinking about pathogens transfer within the feed. And so we're fortunate, Dr. Jones and myself were part of the original group that started that. Dr. Polk was able to be added on. We're lucky to have Jordan in here. Jordan takes the reins of that group right now. And so, it's Jordan Gephardt, that combination of veterinary background and swine nutrition background really lends himself to be an excellent resource within our feed safety team. This is going to be a bigger and bigger area all the time. Being able to get our students exposed to thinking about feed biosecurity is a tremendous asset that we have here in K-State. One of the next levels of development from a successful standpoint is what's depicted on this slide, our partners and our fellowships. And so what you see right here is a list of all the different partners that we have that have either opened their doors and allowed us to come in and conduct research on their operations or funded fellowships through our program. And a lot of those fellowships, these are companies that have decided to provide funding for our program in exchange for an educational opportunity for our grad students. And so, farms like Iowa Select, farms right here, we have Swine Vet Center, here as well too. We help manage their research that they conduct in their barns. Our graduate students are taking a lead on being able to help understand how to conduct real-time, large-scale commercial research. It gives them a really unique educational opportunity. A lot of these other operations on right here, again, we're able to allow us to come in and do trials on their operations. This is something that's not an easy feat. Cassie mentioned about our faculty and the staff out of our swine unit. You go into a big commercial farm and tell them you're going to start changing things or getting in their way. They don't really like to hear that often, but they're dedicated to understanding that what we do there and providing the education, providing the experiences for the students is key to be able to get them prepared for the jobs that they'll have in the future. And so we can't thank this group enough for being able to go out and open the doors. And I looked at this, and there's a couple different Kansas operations on here. The Haverkamps are great to work with. Seaboard's here as well too. We continue to have those discussions with Kansas producers to be able to try and find additional opportunities to go in and do research with. And we're always open to those discussions if anybody has that interest. Yeah, I talked about research from a commercial side, and so the other part of being able to train these students is through the facilities. And if you've been here at this meeting or at our Swine Days the last 3 or 4 years, we've been talking about the new Farron House project we were raising funds with. We filled sows September of 2021, and so it was something that we really looked forward to. I know Joel and I's idea of fun isn't building pig barns, and I know everybody here in the audience also understands that, but it was a heck of a good time once we were able to put those sows in there. And I'll tell you, this is something that would not have happened if it wasn't for the support of the Kansas swine industry. And so, Roy Henry was able to step forward and really provided the seed money that got this whole project funded or going. The Livestock and Meat Industry Council at K-State provided money for it. The Kansas Soy Commission also provided a sizable donation to be able to get this operation going. But it's there. We talked about it in the past. The old one lasted for 50 years, and I don't think any of us are going to be here to see the end of this one, but it's a tremendous facility that we have in there. But it's not the end of our growth program as well. And so, you can see over here that I've listed some of the other phases for growth. And for sure, endowed chairs is something that we really need to focus on. So, even though Tim said it seems to be a budget surplus, we don't see a lot of that coming back to the universities, I don't think. And as we look out in the future, I don't see a lot of additional funding coming to the university as well. So we've got to take ownership of making sure that we have faculty here to continue leading this program in the future. And, Jordan Gephardt may look like he's 18 years old, and he's a little bit older than that. But clearly, if you look at Joel DeRucci, you see that we're all aging when we're up here. And so, we're not going to be around forever. And the way to be able to secure the next round of students for our industry is to be able to have endowed chairs that are helping train the students. And again, this isn't money that helps us increase our salaries. This is the money that attracts us and our ability to be able to attract the next generation of teachers and professors here at K-State. Cassie talked a little bit about some of the undergrad research salaries that are going out there. Master's and PhD level students out of our program, it's phenomenal what the industry is willing to pay for those guys. And so we can only be able to get those people to come back from the industries to be able to attract the top-notch students with these endowed chairs. Definitely plans for new nurseries. We have one new nursery that started in 2014, I believe. We have another nursery that's still back to the early 1980s model that we need to create a more modern version to be able to continue with the research. Also have plans for a new office, classrooms, biosecure entry. A lot of this is going to benefit the undergrad research. It's going to be benefit the swine science classes that Bob teaches there as well too. And so definitely plans for the future within our swine industry and with our swine program here at K-State, and would be happy to talk with anybody about that afterwards if it's something you guys want to get involved with. We also have the opportunity to teach students outside of the classroom with unique projects. And Joel mentioned some of what's on our website already, but I want to draw your attention to the left side right here. This is our swine nutrition guide. Up on our website, you can go right there and be able to attract information that a PhD person can read and be able to learn and get educated, but it's also written in a way that people in the barns can be able to utilize that information to understand what they do on a daily basis. And so this was a product of prelim projects within some of our graduate students. It's something there that allows them to gain additional experiences outside of the normal classroom, outside of the normal research they do. On the right here, we have also on our website a page that has a lot of calculators and tools, decision-making tools that anybody here in this room can go to our website, download any of these tools, look at ways to change feed efficiency, looking at how if you place 25 pigs in a pen versus 28 pigs in a pen, how's that going to influence your growth rates? And so all of these particular projects right here were the basis of a prelim project for one of our PhD students. It allowed them to create another model, allowed them a different way to be able to get educated with tools that actually are meaningful, shows that they're really creating value for the industry. Yeah, the last one I'll talk about right here is family. And, this is something that really got started probably at the football field. Bill Snyder started this family K-State tradition, but it doesn't end right there as well too. And the relationships that all these students build, their ability to learn how to interact with each other. We do a lot of Myers-Briggs. We do a lot of personality profile training. Appreciate Lisa's contributions for that. Lisa Tokesh comes and does the training. It really creates well-rounded individuals when they leave the program right here. And you can see it whether it's our pig butts color run team that we had right here, to being 3 months in a sow farm and 24 hours a day catching pigs, and the excitement they had when they finally left that farm. And so it was great. But it all goes right here. And again, it's a family. And some days, maybe not as great as other days, just like any other family. And we don't have family reunions. We don't get together at Christmas, but we do all come together at the tailgates at the football games. And so if anybody's ever in town or everybody wants to pop on by, we're in the northwest corner of the parking lot. We've got the K-State Swine Nutrition flag flying to be able to find your way there, and we'd be happy to have anybody pop by and join us with our festivities. When we think about what they've accomplished during their program, I like the first one. We're a little bit competitive within our group right here. And so when I can put up here that we've had 11 first place, 3 second place, 4 third place awards on scientific presentations is really a meaningful statistic for myself anyways. And we push them hard and we prepare them hard to be able to get it done. But it's nice that they can be recognized that way with others. 5 Midwest ASS, American Society of Animal Science Young Scholar Awards. That would be the highest level of achievement you can through the Midwest Animal Science meetings. 5 of our students have been selected right there. 2 Outstanding Graduate Student Corps Awards. This would be the top graduate students within the Animal Science Department at Kansas State University. 16 Donahue, 4 Nunemaker scholarships. Those are all scholarships here to be able to attract the top-notch students to our programs. The next ones I really appreciate right here, the Nemechek scholarships, the Toller scholarships. This comes back to the previous slide, the family part right there. So these are 2 individuals that were families that were products of our program that decided to give back, decided that, hey, there's an opportunity to be able to benefit the next generations of swine nutritionists that are coming out. So we can't underestimate, we can't say enough thanks to the alumni of our program for being able to come back and continue to support our program right here. The industry support is also right there. International Ingredients, Purine, the Feed Energy scholarships. The students have done a tremendous job at what they've accomplished while they're here in their program. Oftentimes we do think about success with what's generated at the end of the day. And this is from our Swine Day back in November. This last year we had just shy of 56,000 pigs on test. 57 different experiments. It's a phenomenal amount of productivity right here. And I'll tell you, I'm part of a multi-state swine nutrition group where we come together and all the swine nutritionists from each of the main swine universities come together, and we had our meeting in January. And they went around the room talking about what they were able to accomplish in the last year, and almost every one of them said, oh, COVID either slowed our program down or we had to stop our program. And it felt pretty good to come and say, we had the best year we've ever had, even during COVID. And taking care of those opportunities, taking advantage of the opportunities when they're presented is really something that demonstrates what we've done here at K-State. The last couple slides, I wanted to touch on, some of our recent graduates, or I guess recent, going back to 2015 right here. But it was interesting, there's a lot of names here that a lot of people recognize. But the thing that really struck me as I was putting together, a lot of these students did not originally come from Kansas. Maybe or may not even be in Kansas right now, but the amount of Kansas swine industry production that they touch is amazing. Dr. Hyatt Frobos, General Manager Just All, his office is here in Kansas. Kyle Coble swings through with JBS. Grace Hagemeyer, she's at Continental Mills, QA Manager here in Manhattan, Kansas. Lonnie Schumacher's up at Iowa State VDL. And so if you've ever sent samples up to Iowa State, more than likely she has her hand in the mix of getting those samples processed. Josh Floor, nutritionist down at Seaboard. Kyle Jordan, General Manager here in Kansas at Darling. Ethan Stevens and John DeYoung came back at Swine Day this last year. You remember, or he gave a nice presentation for Swine Day. We started looking at more recently, Corey Carpenter's at Zimpro. If anybody's talked about organic minerals in your swine nutrition diets, your sow diets, more than likely Corey's been involved with some of that as well too. So we go through Roger Cochran, Director of Mills at Pipestone. Craney Vieira works with PIC, lives here in Kansas. Mariana Menajot, she's up at Holden Farms, but again, she's one of those that have opened her doors to allow us to go up and collect research and conduct research here at K-State. Lori Thomas from PIC, if anybody's working with PIC animals right there, more than likely she's part of the tech support that comes into your farms and helps you out there. And Enrique Semen. Enrique lives up in Minnesota, but if anybody has ordered any feed from Beloit, from the Hubbard Mills right there, Enrique was the one that helped put together some of those diets, helped make sure the QA and QC was done correctly, helped make sure that everything's done from a nutritional standpoint. We had the opportunity to talk about, or to listen to Annie earlier this morning, appreciate what she's done, again, what that company's going to do with the state in the future, as well as Jordan Gepper right here. Can't say enough about Jordan. He's the smartest dude I'll ever meet, I imagine. So being able to, you shake your head no, but I could hardly get my PhD, let alone a PhD and a DVM at the same time. And so, it's tremendous to be able to have some of those people back here. Most recent crop of graduate students, all very similar numbers, a lot of names. You've seen a lot of these guys, but it's amazing just to see where they're at. Jenna Chance, we were able to help her celebrate her wedding this last Saturday. She's working with Elanco, living right here in Kansas. The last one, Julia Holland, what's it been, 2 weeks, Julia? Maybe since she defended her PhD, she's going to go up and work at Swine Vet Center. Another one of those organizations that's opened their door to allow us to go up and help educate our students. And so it's amazing really when you see where a lot of these students have been, the past graduates, how much ties back to Kansas we still have within this program. Last slide for me today then is the graduates that are coming up. And so this is the next 2 to 3 years, everybody on this screen will be looking for a job. And so this is the typical time where we have them all stand up. And so if I can have everybody that's on this slide right here, take a not a seat. Yeah. Peyton also, Peyton, Olivia, Allison, you might as well jump up as well too. And so I want to bring your attention because, we keep talking about labor. And every indication is that these students will be every bit as successful as any of the past students we've had coming through here. So if you're looking to hire in the next 2 or 3 years, you should be making sure you go up and introduce yourself to every one of the people that are standing right here. You're going to be the impactful leaders of our industry in your future, and we're really fortunate to have them as part of our team, part of our program. So I'd like to give them a round of applause right now, and that'll be conclusion of my statement. And with that, if there are any questions, Joel will...
Yeah, we have time for a couple questions for Cassie and Jason, for those that have questions about some of the information that they talked about.
I knew this was going to happen after lunch.
Yeah, well, Jason's not very entertaining, so that's probably why there's no questions.
I missed the planning meeting for the Profitability Conference, and I'll promise Joel will be talking next year.
Yeah. True story. We decided, all right, we're going to have this session, and we just assigned Jason to talk, and he wasn't there, so that's a very true story.